Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the late nature of this status update for my reading. Let's begin. So the books that I recently finished are Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by LARocca. This is my first book by LARocca. It was recommended to me by Gabby Reads, and I mean, it was intense. I really enjoyed it. It's about the relationship between two girls who meet on an internet chat room in the early 2000s, and I mean, I just think the emotions in this book were really fast-paced and everything. I really liked his writing. I can't wait to read more of his. He's coming out with a new release at the end of January, which I can't wait to read. The next book I read is by Kristin. It's called The Great Alone. This is set in Alaska in the 1970s, and I just love the setting of it. It's about a girl who comes of age in Alaska and falls in love with somebody and has a kid, and it's just a beautiful story. Kristin's writing is just so engaging. I have read 5 books by her this year. I can't remember the title of this one, but it's the one that's about infertility, but I can't remember the title of it. So I read that book. I read this one, The Great Alone. I've read Firefly Lane. I've read The Women, and I've read The Nightingale. Her books are so fabulous. I highly recommend them. The next book that I read is Night Shift. This is a horror short story anthology by Stephen King that features short stories that are based around characters in his other books, such as Carrie and The Shining. And actually, one story in this anthology is from Salem's Lot. But my favorite stories in this anthology were Graveyard Shift, The Boogeyman, The Lawnmower Man, and Strawberry Spring. I just love the intense buildup in all of these short stories and how they keep you on the edge of your seat. The thing about Stephen King's writing is that I find his books to be mostly suspenseful and not very scary, and that's the same way I feel about these short stories too. Like, I don't leave the books or the short stories feeling very scared. I just feel like he knows how to keep you guessing at each plot twist. The next book I'm reading has been highly anticipated. So I read the first 2 books in these series, Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, in February and March. And I put this book on reserve, like, right away as soon as I finished book 2. So I have been dying to read this ever since then. And it finally came into the library yesterday, so I'm so happy to finally get my hands on this, because that cliffhanger at the end of book 2 has kept me on the edge of my seat. And I'm so disappointed, actually, because Evangeline ends up with somebody who I was hoping she would not end up with. So, that was disappointing, but other than that, I liked this whole series. I think my favorite book in this trilogy was probably The Ballad of Never After, just because of the cliffhanger at the end that led to the disappointing revelation in this book. Stephanie Garber's writing is just great. I also liked the Caravel trilogy and the holiday novella for that series. came out a couple weeks ago, and I can't wait to read that. My favorite book in the Caravel series is probably Legendary. The next book on my thriller, horror, dark academia, mystery, blacklist TBR is basically all the thriller, horror, mystery, dark academia books I did not get to read in October. Is The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake. This is by the same author who wrote Alone with You in the Ether and One for My Enemy. One for My Enemy was 5 stars, and Alone with You in the Ether was 3.5 stars. And the reason why I chose the 3.5 star rating for Alone with You in the Ether was because there were too many side commentary there were like 5 different narrators in this book. It made things super confusing, and it made the plot hard to follow. With this book is set at a college for students who are magical. So picture Harry Potter, but instead of at a magical school for witchcraft and wizardry that's for high schoolers, it's a magical secret society in a college. I'm not really sure where this college is actually supposed to be. It's somewhere in New York City, because they talk about having Manhattan apartments, but like I'm not sure if it's NYU or another school in New York City, like Columbia or the New School or whatever. But I just love the New York City setting. My favorite character in this book is probably Libby, because she seems to be the most relatable character out of all of the characters. And excuse me, I'm sorry. The character that I like the least is Callum, because he's too whiny. So I am on... Oh, I didn't even tell you my status update for Once Upon a Curse for True Love. I am on chapter 34, and I should be done with this book by tomorrow. So that's page 234. And in the Atlas 6, I am currently on page 260. The final book I wanted to talk about tonight is You Will Never Be Me by Jessie Sutanto. This is a thriller book that is about a social media influencer who disappears because she gets kidnapped, and one of her followers is suspected in her kidnapping. So this book is just starting to get really good. I am on chapter 13. This book is by the same author as the Aunties trilogy. So if you have not read that trilogy, it's a YA trilogy that's really a lot of fun. I read that series earlier this year, and I really liked it. So this book is a new release. It came out around my birthday on August 20th. So, right now I am transitioning in between reading thriller, horror, or dark academia books to reading more festive books for Christmas time. I am rereading Wrecked the Halls by Tessa Bailey, and I am waiting for the holiday novella Spectacular by Stephanie Garber, as well as a few new holiday releases from Debbie McComber and Marissa Meyer, who wrote Renegades trilogy and Lunar Chronicles series, to come in at the library. So I am excited to read those books and pick up whatever reserves are on hold for me to pick up tomorrow. And I will be coming out with another video at the beginning of December where I talk about my book club for Print Bookstore and the books that we read for November and December for Reading the Rainbow. We just had our discussion on Monday evening about In the Dream House, and our December book is Make the Season Bright, Ashley Herring Blake's holiday release that just came out a couple of weeks ago. So I will be back on December 9th with a new update for you guys. And I have 2 videos slated to come out next week on Tuesday. So be prepared for those. Have a great night.